Right. Hello, everyone. My name's Rachel. I am an intern with the Climate Mental Health Network, and I am joined today by Leslie Davenport. Super exciting. Leslie Davenport is a climate psychology educator, consultant, and therapist, exploring the intersectionality of climate and economics, education, policy, media, and social justice. She authored 5 books, including the one for kids that we'll be exploring today, What to Do When Climate Change Scares You. She is an advisor to Post Carbon Institute, Climate Mental Health Network, Project Inside Out, One Resilient Earth, and the program and faculty lead of the Climate Psychology certification at the California Institute of Integral Studies. And I'm just so excited to have you here today. And I mean, I just don't think there could be a more vital time to have this book. So if you could start by just giving a brief overview of the book, What to Do When Climate Change Scares You, and its chapters, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. And I'm so glad to be here in conversation with you and for everyone listening in. So this book, maybe I'll hold it up so you can just take a peek, is published by Imagination Press, which is the children's book division of the American Psychological Association. And they actually approached me about this book, which I'm really thrilled about. They've sort of got their finger on the pulse of the rising mental health concerns with kids, and clearly worries about climate change is a big one right now and has been for a while and will continue to be. And they have a whole series called, starts out with what to do when the news scares you, what to do when you worry too much. And so this is sort of the next book in this series. And it's for ages 6 through 12. But you know, I will say I've written books for adults and for tweens and for kids, and I have to say that the basic themes remain the same and many of the tools remain the same. So it's working with our thoughts, our feelings, our nervous systems, our understanding of what's happening in the world, ways we can respond both to our feelings, but also to be part of creating the change that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much of a hands-on workbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to say it because I looked through the book and I will absolutely be using it. Like, this is a resource for all ages. It's one I wish I had when I was younger, but I mean, it's um, absolutely accessible for all ages and so important. Um, and so you mentioned who is it for? It's aimed through kids 6 through 12. I'm wondering too, is this book more geared towards a child that has experienced direct climate disaster or whose anxiety comes from just knowing and hearing and witnessing climate phenomenon? Because we know there's so many pathways, right, of ways that we're affected emotionally by climate.
Yes, yes, that's a really good point. Um, you know, it's relatively adaptable, and I'll tell you how that works, how that's true. So at the beginning of the book, it starts out with 3 hearts.
Mhm.
And in the first heart, kids are asked to either write or to draw things that they love about the natural world. And it could be, you know, playing at the beach or, you know, gardening with a parent or grandparent. It could be the taste of fresh fruit. I mean, it could be just about anything. The second one asks them what they're curious about, what they want to know more about as it relates to climate change, things they've experienced, things they've heard about, things they've witnessed, whatever level that may be. And the third one is more feelings based, what their worries are, what their concerns are. And then throughout the book, it circles back to dive a little more deeply into those 3. So, for example, a child's worries, if they've been through an event or an evacuation, let's say, is this going to happen again? Is it safe to go to sleep tonight? And so it could the tools could arise out of that kind of a direct experience. But this book is also beginning to be adopted a bit into schools that are beginning to teach
Mhm.
some climate science, which is, it's not uniform, it's kind of based on area. But most of the time when climate science is being introduced, it doesn't include the social emotional part.
Mhm.
And so some teachers are choosing to use some of the exercises from the book into the classroom.
Mhm. That's fantastic and just so important. I know like we're seeing more of that inclusion of the emotions at the college level, but like part of my work too is integrating it more into K through 12. I think it's so vital to start there. And we, of course, we know like children's of all ages are experiencing this and deeply
Yeah.
embodying all that comes with climate. So really exciting.
Let
I'm
me
yeah,
Good. Let me just add one thing
yeah,
here.
of course.
One of the things I hear a lot, both from parents and from teachers, particularly in areas where there may not be as much direct impact at this point, is this sense of wanting to protect their kids and not scare them. And, is it really smart to be talking about this if, day to day seems just fine? And I think it's important to address that because it halts sometimes the ability to open up that space where kids are free to ask their questions or share their feelings or feel connected with the adults around them, which matters so much. And if we don't open that up, um, kids are learning about it anyway, and then they're left more isolated and often with misconceptions
Mhm.
that might be unnecessarily brewing. I mean, there's plenty of real things to be concerned about and ways to work with that, but we certainly don't need to add on to that with, little pieces of scary but incomplete information.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, having kids be comfortable to ask about anything and to ask about any of these complex issues, like it just opens the door to all of that. It's so important. I'm wondering, you kind of touched on this, just the question of like, when is this book appropriate to use? Like, is there a setting or context that's the best time to engage with this learning adventure, as you call it in the book? Like I'm thinking about, if a parent is wanting to bring this book into their life, like maybe there's a daily routine, like before bed, going through a chapter, or
Oh,
kind of how you
yeah.
can envision like incorporating this.
Yes. Well, I think there are, just in terms of raising the topic overall, there's a lot of natural cues. Either that kids will share something they heard or saw, or, they can't go to their favorite lake because of a toxic algae bloom, or can't go skiing, or they can't do their sports tournament because it's too hot. Whatever these natural things are that are already happening, or smoky skies, and that can really also exacerbate, asthma or other pre-existing conditions. It's a great time to mention how our world is changing and start a very little conversation. And like a lot of topics, especially ones that have the potential for a lot of emotional charge,
Mhm.
to do it in with sensitivity to what the child is interested in, when they're ready to take a break, when they want to circle back around. And so to sort of be on the ready and have your antenna up for that. If it's not being already taught in the schools, another really natural time is Earth Day. Almost every school, everywhere, every community does an Earth Day celebration. So it's this, easy entry point into this topic. And then the other thing that can be a really fun way to enter into this is going to an aquarium or a nature reserve and making it sort of a fun outing, because almost all of them now do have some kind of a conservation component
Mhm.
about keeping the oceans healthy or the ecosystems. And that's also a natural way. And many of those also do a sort of an engagement invitation or a call to action.
Yeah, I love bringing to that like joy and playfulness and curiosity and linking it to like what, what that child like loves already and is passionate about. Like that's also, I think,
Yes.
such like a good way of keeping the conversation going because we know this is going to be, a lifelong conversation. So,
Yes, and that's one of the things the book does too, is it invites kids to identify, just as you said, what are they already excited about? What would they be interested in being part of? And that, a lot of initiatives are school-based or can be school-based, community-based, and that we need the artists who are gonna sing a song or create a poster or whatever that might look like. And then the kids who are more science engineering oriented. And, it's just, like adults and for all of us, every single area of human engagement needs this renewal through a sustainability lens and
yeah.
these changes. And we're starting, with kids, we can encourage that right from the start.
Mhm.
And I wanted to show one because kind of one of my favorite activities in the book. I'll just hold it up briefly because it's a way to do a playful engagement with some of this. So this is a maze that kids work their way through, but they've just been learning about what get called unhelpful thoughts and helpful thoughts, and as it relates to climate change. So unhelpful thoughts being things like nobody cares or it's all up to me. And then helpful thoughts are about that would counteract that, or looking at the people who are engaged in doing things. And there's lots of examples in of kids in schools and all kinds of projects. And that it is about being stronger together. So they work their way through the maze with the path having helpful thoughts like one step at a time, good changes are already happening. And then they run into dead ends around things like it's all up to me. And it ends up that their way through the maze ends with a healthier world for all.
Mhm.
So to kind of keep that playfulness alive.
I found that activity really helpful. That was one of my favorites. It's like I need to keep remembering this. Well, I'm trying to see. I had a question, if you want to go over about, you mentioned that addressing eco-anxiety in kids and adults have two core components, and I'm just
Mhm.
wondering if you could go over those two pieces.
Yes. We touched on it lightly, but let's open it up a little bit. So it's what I call internal strategies and external strategies, or even our internal landscapes
Mhm.
and our external landscapes. So the internal strategies are things we've been looking at, like how to deal with those thoughts that just might be inaccurate on some level, but just keeping us stirred up and awake at night and afraid to go to sleep. Um, and working with the feelings, validating them, acknowledging them, doing an art project with them, finding out that it's common that other kids and adults have these feelings too. And then external strategies are ways to become a part of the change and to join with others. And, they really are connected. Sometimes there's an inclination to only want to do one or only want to do the other. And I'll give a little bit of an example with this. So with slightly older, like youth activists
Mhm.
who are very engaged in those strategies to make the world better, safer, healthier, more just, there's sometimes hesitation to do self-care, to take a break, to take a breath, to find out what you need to replenish to keep going. And what I've learned through therapy is sometimes when they get softer, more vulnerable, we go a little deeper. There's some fear there about, well, if I really let myself feel how upset I am, how worried I am, how angry I am, I'm just going to fall into those emotions and not be able to come out. So I'm just going to plow ahead. But without having that self-care, that chance to replenish, that chance to take a breath, there are really high levels of burnout. We just can't start running a race and go until we drop. And sometimes it sort of plays out that way. And then on the other end of the spectrum, sometimes I get people who recognize, what's happening in their thoughts and feelings and just want to feel better, just want to, also not have it waking them up in the middle of the night. But unless they're also part of change, then we're sort of disempowered and we're always going to have these feelings because it's a natural response to a really just damaging system and destructive way that things are operating right now. So they go hand in hand and they really need to go hand in hand. And again, the book tries to cover the whole thing, and then certain individuals will find which of the areas they really need to focus on the most to bring things into balance.
I love how, yeah, the book is really like your own learning adventure, and you can
Yeah.
kind of work through it in whatever way you need and you're being called to do. And yeah, I think finding that balance is so hard and probably a lifelong kind of journey for all of us of like when do we go inward and when do we go outward, and the
Yeah.
both are so important and so amazing to begin to like recognize that balance as a young age at a young age. So I think I'll ask you if there's any last tidbit you'd like to share now, but if not, we can wrap up our conversation for today. And is there anything you'd like to end on?
Yeah, one thought, and then I think I'll also read the dedication, which is really short at the beginning of the book. So the one thought, and this is for, again, parents, teachers, caregivers, counselors, that we all need to keep growing in our climate literacy. We don't have to be climate scientists, but just, keep learning what's happening, but we do not need to have it figured out. That if a child comes with a question, if the response is along the lines of, I'm not sure, but I'm really interested in this too. Let's find a time specifically later today, tomorrow, on the weekend to go check this out. See if there's a book at the library about it or a reliable website resource. And it really is more about we're in this together than feeling like you have to be okay or have it all figured out. And at the same time, um, we want to validate their feelings, but as adults, not necessarily process our own anxieties with our kids. So it's really important to get support on that level as well.
Yeah.
So let me just read the dedication, which goes like this. This book is dedicated to our kids, the ones under our roof, those we guide in classrooms, and the ones we love from afar. Our kids who are full of curiosity, honesty, challenges, bravery, and dreams, who are growing so fast and feel everything. Our kids whom we cherish and are so proud of, whose movements we track with our hearts. Our kids who will live in a very different future than the one we used to imagine. We ask their forgiveness for leaving them a world whose climates, landscapes, and inhabitants have at times been so disregarded, dismissed, and damaged. We're learning and changing too. We're here. We're with you. Let's make things better together.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. I think that's the perfect place to end for today. Thank you so much for your time and work. And it's just so valuable always, and especially in this moment. And I wanted to say too that Climate Mental Health Network, we have an online kind of bookstore at our website. And if you purchase the book through our website, in these next 2 weeks, there's a 10% discount. So we'll put that code up on all our socials. And again, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Leslie. And, this
Thank you.
conversation is continuous. So,
Thanks so much.
all right. Bye.